What's up, guys? We're here to go over UFC Kansas City, Holloway versus Allen. First off, please like and subscribe. I know I always say that at the end of the video. Sometimes maybe that's too late to catch people. But I want to thank you guys. My UFC 287 video has been the most viewed video I've had. I'm almost up to 2,000 views. Doesn't sound like a lot compared to some of these other big channels, but for a guy who's only been doing it for a couple months, it's a big deal for me. I've picked up a lot of subscribers over it, getting close to 150. So thank you guys. I really appreciate all y'all, and I appreciate all you guys in the comments. You guys are always cool and super respectful. And yeah, so not any results to talk about on this one yet because 287 hasn't happened yet. Getting this one out pretty early as well because I didn't have anything to do, just kind of sitting around. I'm sure a few fights will change around. I know some fights have changed around on the UFC 287 card, and I did uh, Ignacio Bahamondes' opponent changed out. I went ahead and I'm still going with Bahamondes, and I've got a good size play on him as well. Just so you guys know, I'm still going with him, on that. And then we lost the Michael Chiesa and the Leach fight. And for a second, I thought Joaquin Buckley was actually going to jump in and fight Chiesa on short notice, but it turns out that was an April Fool's Day joke, and he got me. So, haha, whatever. I posted that shit on my YouTube channel and everything, fucker. But anyways, let's get into it, man. Let's get down here to the first fight. Ed Herman taking on Zach Cummings. And yeah, I'm actually a big Ed Herman fan, man. So let's talk about this fight. So Ed Herman is 42 years old. He is 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. He is 24-15 and 13-11 in the UFC. Like I said, I'm a big Ed Herman fan. Have been since he was on the Ultimate Fighter show way back in the day. I guess that was probably back in like 2006 or 2007, and I would have been like 17 years old, I think, at the time. And I honestly didn't think I was gonna get the chance to break down one of his fights on my channel, because I've only been doing this a few months, and I wasn't sure if we were gonna see him again. And anyway, that's how long I've been a fan of his. I kind of thought he was on his way out a long time ago, and then he came back with like 3 wins in a row and one knockout and a Kimura submission. Before losing his last fight to Alonzo Minifield. And he had moments in that fight. Like at least in the first round. Um, he's 42 years old. He's well rounded, very experienced guy. He's got good jiu-jitsu, big power. He has a long reach. He has slowed down a lot, and I don't mean that to be like insulting. It's just he's late in his career, as somebody would, that's had 24 fights in the UFC. He's over 40 years old now. But he proved he can still take a shot. If Alonzo can't put him out, also his leg was just completely jacked in that fight, and he still made it through, all the way to the end of the third round. So I'm hoping I'll get to interview this guy one day. I'm surprised he doesn't have more, Instagram followers and stuff because he's been around so long and he's always been a real exciting fighter. Um, let's see, he lost that fight, but his 3-fight win streak was Patrick Cummings, and Fedis Imerbov and Mike Rodriguez. I don't remember Patrick Cummings at all. I wonder if he's even still in the UFC. But anyway, I could go over his whole record or whatever with you guys, but let's just say I'm a big fan of his. I know probably nobody else gives a shit, but he's taking on Zach Cummings. He's 38 years old. He is 6 foot tall with a 75-inch reach, so they got an even reach here. He's 24-7 and 9-4 in the UFC. And he's another guy, like I said, that's up there in age. He hasn't fought in 2.5 years. And he's always fought, at lower weight classes. At first, he fought at welterweight, which is when he actually looked in the best shape. And then he fought at middleweight, and he didn't look like he was like in the best shape there. And he looked, kind of like a small middleweight. Um, and now he's coming up to light heavyweight. So I don't imagine that he's going to look very good as far as not carrying like a lot of fat on him. He has good power, pretty good striker. He'll have the speed advantage here. Uh, he hasn't. I don't think he's ever been knocked out in the UFC. He has good leg kicks. I just don't know how he'll look at 205. Based on how he looked, in his last fight, like a small little weight, like a small middleweight, and he's either bulked up and put on a lot of muscle, or he's going to be chubby. So he was out due to injury. So we just don't know. Like I said, what he's going to look like. And at least with Herman, I know what I'm going to get. Um, Zach's fighting at home. The UFC has given him a fight that they think he will win. So there is that. And he probably should win. But I'm picking Herman. Probably you shouldn't listen to me, but I want Herman to win. So I'm going to hope Zach is out of shape. And Herman's definitely going to be the way bigger guy. Uh, so that, like I said, maybe not listen to me on that one, but like I said, coming up a weight class, another weight class, I just don't know what he's going to look like after being out 2.5 years. I couldn't find much. I tried looking on Zach's Instagram, kind of see some current, pics of him or something, but there really wasn't much on there for me to go off of to make a good decision on what he's going to look like. So I'm going to take Ed Herman to win. I'd imagine, Zach will have the better cardio and stuff like that, or he should have. He would have, at the other weight classes. So I'm going to pick Ed Herman, say he wins by decision. Next up, we got Brandon Royval taking on Munhoz Nicolau. So this is going to be a pretty exciting fight. I'm actually a big fan of both of these guys. Um, Brandon Royval is 30 years old. He is 5'9" with a 70.5-inch reach. He is 14-6 and 4-2 in the UFC. So Royval is super talented, real exciting guy to watch. He's only lost to like the best in the division, the champ and Pantoja. He's really wild. He'll absolutely jump on like submissions and stuff. I've seen him give up dominant positions to jump on a sub that sometimes he gets them, sometimes he doesn't, but he goes for it. I'm a big fan of his. He'll have a 3.5-inch reach advantage here. He's really tall for the weight class. He throws good combinations. He's got good power. He's got really fast kicks. Very offensive off his back. I've seen him get rocked a few times. And dropped in some of his fights. He's always live for a finish either way. KO or sub. And it's kind of a tough pick for me because these are two guys that I've been riding with. In kind of all their fights. And and that I've had money on here lately, especially Nicolau. I've had money on Brandon Royval and most of his too, and he lost me some money in a couple of his. But like I said, these are two guys that I've been riding with. So he's taking on Munhoz Nicolau. He's 30 years old. He is 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. He is 9-2-1 and 7-1 in the UFC. Nicolau's a great fighter, and the best thing about him, is like his well-roundedness and his ring IQ. He's a very smart fighter. He doesn't take unnecessary risk. He's very technical and calculating. Uh, these two guys are complete opposites in that way. He's looked better and better each time we've seen him. Both these guys finished Matt Snell last time out. Royval subbed him, and Nicolau knocked him out. Nicolau's a very good counter fighter. He'll frustrate guys so they rush him, and he'll counter them, with big shots. He doesn't have the highest volume of strikes, but he makes them count. He's very accurate. He's got really good ground and pound, hard calf kicks. Royval's always live, for a finish. But I feel like this fight could be similar to the last Nicolau fight. I don't know if I'll have the balls to put money on it, which turns out I do. This was me doing my notes earlier this week, but um, I think Nicolau wins by decision. I think Royval's style plays pretty well into his game. Because he takes all the risk, he rushes in, he's very aggressive, and Nicolau likes to be a counter striker. So I'm gonna be taking Nicolau to get the win. I'm just gonna say by decision. I don't think he finishes Brandon Royval. Next up, we got Gaston Bolanos taking on Aaron Phillips. And I had to do a lot of research on this one, and I was kind of frustrated that really couldn't find the answers on what I was looking for much. But Gaston Bolanos is 30 years old. He's 5'7" with a 70.5 inch reach. He's 6-3, and this is going to be his UFC debut. He was mainly a Muay Thai guy and a kickboxer before MMA. His MMA career has been over in Bellator. Um, you can find quite a few of his fights on YouTube and stuff. He's a pretty exciting guy to watch. He's got lots of finishes on his record. All knockouts. His weak points are submission awareness and defense. Every time he's lost, I think it's been by sub. Obviously he's a very talented, and powerful striker. He's got crazy spinning elbow attacks and spinning back fist, and he has amazing Muay Thai, and he's got an inch and a half reach advantage here in this spot. He really hasn't fought the best of competition as far as his MMA career. So the question really is how much has his takedown defense improved, and his submission defense as well, and also it looks like most of his fights were at featherweight, and Tapology has this one at bantamweight. So is he going to be able to make the weight, and how's he going to look? Um, he's going to be taking on Aaron Phillips. He is 33 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach, and he's 12-4. And he's 0-3 in the UFC, and this is his second run in the UFC. His first run, he lost 2 fights by decision, and they cut him. And then he won 5 in a row, 4 of them by finish on the regional scene. Came back against Jack Shore, and of course lost. But Jack Shore's a beast, so you can't really hold that against him. It all comes down to can Phillips get the takedowns here? If he can, he wins by sub or decision. He does have good jiu-jitsu. He has good kicks, good power, pretty fast hands. But he's not going to be able to strike with Gaston in this fight. He cannot go out there and play that game. He's going to have to use his grappling, and I would say he has that grappling advantage, and I kind of want to pick him here, but I usually lean more towards the guys with the grappling advantage, but I just haven't really seen the proof, that he has really good takedowns. And that's absolutely what he's gonna have to do to get the win. I'm staying away from this fight because I couldn't find, looking through all of Aaron Phillips' stuff, really much examples of his grappling or anything like that. So I'm gonna pick Gaston to win by knockout, but if he doesn't get it in the first round, start watching for the grappling of Phillips and maybe jump on the live line because we don't know what Gaston's gonna look like in the third round. He's never been there, so that's something to watch. If Phillips makes it through the first half of the fight, so keep an eye on that. Next up, we got Jocelyn Edwards taking on Lucy Padova. um, Jocelyn Edwards is 27 years old. She's 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. She's 12-4 and 3-2 in the UFC. So Edwards is a good-looking woman. She has pretty good Muay Thai. She'll have a 2.5-inch reach advantage. She has really good calf kicks. I'm a fan of hers. I liked her striking. When she first came to the UFC, I really did and appreciate and enjoy some of the performances she was putting on and how good her striking looked. And I also think she's hot and wish she would grow her hair out long though. But she does get taken down a lot. That's always been her weak spot. And she's pretty offensive off her back though. She has a good ground and pound from top position. She had a loss to Carol Rosso, who I consider to be a pretty tough chick. So no shame there. I don't think I noticed she kind of like started fighting more reserved her last few fights rather than taking a lot of risk, which is kind of how she was getting taken down, in some of her other fights. She has good speed, and she's been kind of happy to use her range and beat her opponents up from the outside, using a lot of kicks and good combinations and nice straight shots. And she that's kind of how she coasted through her last 2 fights. And she has had trouble making weight, at least her last time out. So it's a shame the women's featherweight division is almost non-existent because I thought Jocelyn looked pretty good at that one fight she had at 145. She looked a lot bigger. She looked pretty thick and strong. So it's too bad that there's really not a lot of competition, to be had up at up at 145. I mean, what do we see, like two or three of those fights a year, maybe? But she's gonna be taking on Lucy Pudilova, and she's 28 years old, 5'8", with a 67.5-inch reach. She's 14-7 and 3-5 in the UFC. So this is her second shot in the UFC. She was cut a few years back after losing four in a row. And she came back last year and got a win over a girl that went 1-5 in the UFC, which is, they do have that opponent in common. I think Jocelyn beat the same girl in her UFC debut, and but she did win impressively, by finish. So I guess that's probably why everybody's picking her in this spot. Yeah, Edwards is definitely going to be the better striker here. Lucy may have the better grappling, but it's weird because she was primarily known as a striker, before, and now she comes back and she was, using her grappling really well, in her debut, and she'll have to get the takedowns to win this fight. She does have pretty good takedowns. I mean, I think Edwards has improved. I think she's improved quite a bit, and Edwards will be the bigger, stronger girl here, and I think this will be a good test to see how much her takedown defense has improved. Uh, so I'm going to take Edwards to win by decision. I know everybody's going with Padalova, just because I guess she got a finish in her last fight, but I don't think she'll be able to bully Edwards around like that at all. And I think Edwards has improved a lot, in her UFC career. So I'll take Edwards to get the win by decision. Next up, we got Lando Vannata taking on Daniel Zellhuber. There you go. And Lando Vannata is 31 years old. He's 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. He is 12-6-2 and 4-6 in the UFC. Lando's he's a veteran. He made a short run at featherweight. He was able to beat Mike Grundy, and then he got subbed pretty quickly by Charles Jourdain, and he's jumping back up to lightweight here. He has pretty good wrestling. He's pretty fast with his strikes. He has good power. Um, he has one of the few will kick knockouts in the UFC on his record, so that's impressive. And his striking defense could be better. He has lost a few fights by submission, so the awareness and defense, on the submissions is something to look if you're it's something to look at if you're placing money on him. Um, so he's taking on Daniel Zellhuber. He is 23 years old, 6'1", with a 77-inch reach, and he is 12-1 and 0-1 in the UFC. So this is a kid that won 12 in a row, and had a bad fight in his debut. He beat a very tough guy on the Contender Series, and Lucas Almeida, who's had a lot of success since he's coming to the UFC. And he seemed to have a case of just being nervous, and not being able to get going, in that fight with Trey Ogden in his debut. So I don't think everybody should be writing this kid off like they are. He's really good. If you go back and do your research, he has 9 wins by finish. If they're writing this kid off, they just haven't done the research. That's all I'm saying. And he's very long for the division. He's going to have 6 inches of reach here on Vannata, and he's a real young kid. He's going to be improving constantly. He's got good, like hip toss type judo throws, good calf kicks, really good kicks all around, really. And he can definitely take a shot. We saw that in the fight on the Contender Series. He doesn't have horrible head movement. He trains up at elevation, so he's got good cardio. And as long as he stuffs the takedowns, he will tear Vannata up on the feet. And if he gets Vannata down, he will grab that wrist and he'll trap it behind him and put a beating on him. So I'm going to be taking Zellhuber to get the win by TKO round 2. I think he'll probably use one of those hip tosses and win via ground and pound. Next up, we got Pero Rodriguez taking on Gillian Robertson. Pierre Rodriguez is 30 years old, 5'3", with a 63-inch reach. She's 9-0 and 2-0 in the UFC. And she's looked pretty good. She has pretty good striking. She was getting a lot of takedowns on Sam Hughes. I have nothing bad to say about her performances. The only thing I could say against her is she hasn't fought the best competition. She'll probably have a striking advantage here. The reach is going to be dead even, and she's going to be taking on Gillian Robertson. She is 27 years old, actually younger than Rodriguez. I didn't realize that Rodriguez is so new to the UFC. I assumed she would be younger, but 27 years old, 5'5" with a 63-inch reach. She's gonna have a height advantage, no reach. She's 11-7 and 8-5 in the UFC. This will be her strawweight debut for Gillian, and so she is a very good grappler. This is a girl that subbed Rose Namajunas in like 30 seconds in a grappling tournament not too long ago. I made a video about it whenever I first started this channel, and it's actually a really big deal, because Rose is like considered one of the best strawweights right now in the world. So, and all of a sudden after that, she's dropping down to Rose's weight class. So, I mean, she's got a good game plan here. She is a great grappler. She's super hot. She should be the bigger girl here. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Um, I think it's a lot of people on Tapology. It's kind of back and forth on this one. It's almost 50-50 of the picks on there. I'm going to be taking Gillian Robertson to get the win. I don't know if she'll get the submission. Probably win by decision is what I'm going to go with. And I believe she's an underdog. If you're, I guess I didn't write it down. Oh yeah, I did. So yeah, she's an underdog. She's plus 136 right now. So if you're into betting on women's fights, and you want a good underdog, I think she's a good shot. I mean, she definitely has a good skill set with the grappling. So she can be counted on there, I think. Next up, we got T.J. Brown taking on Bill Algeo. And TJ Brown is 32 years old. He is 5'9" with a 73.5-inch reach. He is 17-9 and 3-3 in the UFC. He's had a little bit of trouble in the UFC. I think he's improved quite a bit. He looked real good the last time out. He catches a big underdog against Eric Silva. And Eric Silva was making his UFC debut, and everybody was going with him in that fight. And TJ kind of just showed that he was the more experienced, well-rounded fighter. But he did look much improved. I mean, he's going to have a half inch reach advantage here, even though he's way shorter. And he has the power. The first punch that he landed on Eric, TJ dropped him in that fight. Right in the beginning of the fight, as soon as the bell rang, he dropped him. And he's got real good takedowns, pretty good grappling. He pushes a really tough pace. He has good jiu-jitsu. And I think TJ is going to have the power and strength advantage in this fight. He has pretty good scrambles when he's on his back. He'll threaten with leg locks to get back to his feet. I think he's looked, pretty good after the switch. James Crouch was his coach before, and I can't remember who he's with now. I guess that's the West Side Fight Team they have listed here. Not really sure. I don't know much about him, but he did look much improved his last time out since not being with James Krause anymore. I don't know what's going on with that whole James Krause situation, but he's going to be taking on Bill Algeo. He is 33 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 73-inch reach, and he is 16-7 and 3-3 in the UFC as well. And I'm kind of wondering who's closer to home here. Is Pennsylvania closer to Kansas City, or is Arkansas closer? I would think Arkansas would be closer to Kansas City, but I could be wrong. So I don't know who's rooting for, who the crowd's going to be rooting for here. But I was pretty impressed with Bill's win against Joe Anderson Brito. He kind of survived until Brito was gassed out and was able to get a decision win. I think if they fought again, Joe Anderson would destroy him, though. Just being straight up about that. Other than that, not the best wins in the UFC. He probably has fought the better competition, I would say, between the two of these guys. He can turn it on and be a killer like he did to who was that? The embarrassingly gassed out Herbert Burns in that fight. The guy was it's a TKO from exhaustion from damage. Never seen anything like that. That was embarrassing for them. And I thought coming off that Burns fight he would be able to beat Andre Fili, but he didn't look very good there. He got caught quite a few times. Bill's well rounded. I think he'll have the striking advantage here, but like I said, I think the power will be more with TJ Brown. And I think Algeo goes out there, often, and he fights with his hands real low sometimes. and he's always open for that high kick from southpaw, from the southpaw stance. Uh, Andre Fili hit him with that quite a few times, rocked him quite a few times, cut him with one of those. Um, I'm kind of surprised it's so one sided on Tapology for Bill Algeo here. Uh, I mean, naturally, I kind of want to agree with everybody and whatever, like everybody else does, but I wouldn't put money on this fight. But I'm gonna pick T.J. Brown to get the takedowns and win by decision. I'm sure I'll catch a lot of shit for that, but whatever. Uh, I liked more what I've seen out of TJ recently than what I've seen out of Bill Algeo, and I saw quite a few holes in his game. Andre Fili kind of exposed a lot of holes in his game in that fight, so I'm gonna go with TJ. Next up, we got Bruna Brasil taking on Denise Gomes. Bruna is she's 29 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. She is 8-2-1. And this is going to be her UFC debut. Give me just a second. So I wasn't very impressed with her until she got that KO in the Contender Series, and doing my research, she does have quite a few finishes on her record. But both of these girls do really, and this should be an exciting fight. I think. She is Bruno's with the Fighting Nerds team. I don't know if y'all know anything about them, but they got some tough people over there. What is his name? Carlo Borello or whatever his name is. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but he's on a win streak right now in the UFC. I think he's undefeated in the UFC right now. Um, but she's pretty technical. She's not super wild. She stays calm. Her kicks are one of her best weapons. She uses them really well. The opponent that she beat on the Contender Series though was kind of like way undersized, and she's gonna have her height and reach advantage in this fight as well. She's gonna have a 3-inch reach advantage here. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it, because I mean she hasn't really the girl in the Contender Series didn't stand a chance against her. So it was an impressive win, but I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do against somebody that's a little bit better. And Denise Gomes is 23 years old. She is 5'2" with a 63-inch reach. She is 6-2 and 0-1 in the UFC. So starting off, I think it's crazy. This fight also is one-sided towards Brazil. However I guess that's how you say it. But you know, everyone on Tapology is going with Brazil. I'm sure she will be a big favorite, but I think if Gomez hadn't lost her debut, to Luke Boonme, who's a very good fighter, I bet this fight would be closer to a pick'em. And like I said, Gomes has got a lot of finishes on the regional scene too. She has pretty good jiu-jitsu. She's very offensive off her back, and I honestly think this fight could go either way. I am going to go with Brazil by decision though, but just because of the size advantage. But I think this is a lot closer fight than everybody's making it out to be. To be honest with you. Next up, we got Ion Cutelaba taking on Tanner Boser. So Ion Cutelaba is 29 years old. He's 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. He is 16, 9-1, and 5-8 in the UFC. Cutelaba is a powerful guy, but we've seen, in his last fights more than ever, that after one hard round of grappling, he's dead in the water. He usually comes out and has a good first round. He'll get the takedowns, but if he doesn't get a finish, usually he gets finished. And the playbook to beat him is out there. It's been done, quite a few times. He will absolutely stick his head in a guillotine choke, and when he's going for the takedowns, he does it, every time. And he's a guy that's he's fighting a guy now that's much bigger, than he's used to. Tanner Boser's a former heavyweight. He's a big guy. Cutelaba has been subbed 3 times in the UFC, so he's an exciting fighter to watch. Always look forward to his fights because he's super exciting. He's either getting a win or getting knocked out or subbed. So this is going to be a fun fight. So he's taking on Tanner Boser. He is 31 years old. He is 6'2" with a 75.5-inch reach. He's going to have a half-inch reach advantage. He is 29-1 and 4-4 in the UFC. So Boser's a pretty good fighter. He's a good sized light heavyweight. He was a small heavyweight. I think he'll look better down a weight class. His last fight was a close split decision loss to Rodrigo Nascimento. Apparently, Boser has a karate background. Wouldn't really know it by the way he fights, though. He's got good power. He knocked out Felipe Lenz, who's a tough guy. Yeah, I'll tell you, how to bet this fight if you're so inclined to do so. Cutelaba always has a good start, usually almost in every fight. Probably sent other than the Magomed and Kalaev fights. He's always had a good start, and so I would live bet Boser either after the at the beginning of the second round or at the end of the first. You may get him at plus money that way. Right now, I think this fight's more at a pick 'em. Yeah, it's like a pick 'em right now, and I think Boser will end up getting a late KO round 3 after Cutelaba gasses out. Next up, we got Clay Guida taking on Rafa Garcia. This fight was further down the card originally. I got to scroll back up on my notes here. So Clay Guida is 41 years old. He's 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. He is 38-22 and 18-16 in the UFC. A lot of fights. Over 30 fights, 34 fights in the UFC. That's crazy. He's been around forever. He's a fan favorite. He's never in a boring fight. Um, he's got some wins recently that nobody thought he was going to. He was always labeled a wrestler, but here lately he does a lot of striking. He puts on a super hard pace. Guys that can't keep up with him. He doesn't slow down. He can take a shot. Um, he's also stayed very active in the grappling competitions as well. If you look at his stuff on Tapology, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. So let's take a look at his record real quick. Some of the people he's fought and what he's been doing. So, he lost a grappling contest recently to Chase Hooper. He's had 3 grappling matches between his last fight and this fight. And his last fight was a loss to Claudio Puelles by knee bar, which is the only thing that guy's good at. You got a win over Billy Quarantillo in the grappling. He barely lost that Mark Matson fight. It was close. It was a split decision. He's fought Bobby Green, Michael Johnson, Jim Miller, BJ Penn, Charles Oliveira, Joe Lozon, Brian Ortega, Thiago Tavares, um, Dennis Bermudez, Chad Mendez, Gray Maynard, Vincent Henderson, Anthony Pettis. He's got a win over Anthony Pettis. Takanori Gomi, Rafael Dos Anjos, Kenny Florian, Diego Sanchez, Nate Diaz, Mac Danzig, Robert Huerta, Tyson Griffin, Dean Thomas. I mean, this guy's been around forever. He's been fighting everybody. So that's always impressive. And it's always cool to see him still around, still being active. And he's going to be taking on Rafa Garcia. He is 28 years old. He's 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. He is 15-3 and 3-3 in the UFC. And he had a rough start to his UFC career. But he's looked pretty good here lately. He had a competitive fight with what was his name, Drakkar Klose, right? Yeah, Drakkar Klose. He was pretty good. He's a guy that almost knocked out Beneil Dariush. And he got destroyed. And he destroyed what was the guy's name, Machate? Yeah, his last time out, that was a crazy fight. He uses wrestling really well. He's not a horrible striker. He has really good cardio, just like Guida. He keeps a tough pace on guys. He uses a good lead calf kick, and he's got more of a boxing type striking with his hands. I don't know if he'll be able to get Clay down, but I think he'll have the striking advantage in this fight. Clay may be faster, but I expect this to be a real exciting fight. I'm going to be taking Rafa Garcia to get the win by decision. But if you go back and watch his last fight, man, that Machete fight, Machete's a sniper, and he was able to go out there and implement a really good game plan, and he busted that dude up, and that guy, they were Rafa was the one that was bleeding all over the place, I believe. He had a big old gash on the side of his head from an elbow, but he went through that fight, and he was a dog in that fight for sure. wouldn't be a bad spot to look into that. I'll check the line on that real quick. Tell y'all what it is if y'all are interested in that one. Trying to pull it up. Hold on. Oh, I don't see it on this book. Hopefully it didn't get canceled too. Sometimes sometimes Bovada has a freaking are pretty slow to get stuff out, and sometimes they're quick. But I'll have to check it on another book. But I can imagine that the line on Rafa is going to be decent, probably. And next up, we got Pedro Munhoz taking on Chris Gutierrez. And Pedro Munhoz is 36 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. He is 19-7 and 9-7 in the UFC. Uh, his last fight he couldn't continue due to an eye poke. It was kind of a funny situation. It's probably a good thing for him because he wasn't really able to get anything going against Sean O'Malley. He was going to get destroyed. He's on a bad run, but he's losing, only to the legends of the sport, and Pedro's a legend in his own right. If you look at the people he's been fighting lately, Dominic Cruz, he almost knocked out Dominic Cruz in that first round too, and Jose Aldo, Jimmy Rivera, he won that, and then he had a Frankie Edgar fight, which is a split decision. It was a close fight. So he's been fighting, other legends that have been around a long time here lately, so. Um, he's let's look at his record real quick. See who all he's fought. So he's fought. I guess he was supposed to fight Frankie Edgar 3 times, and it got canceled before he finally fought him. But he's fought Aljamain Sterling, Cody Garbrandt, Brett Johns, John Dotson, Rob Font. He's fought a lot of good fighters. So he's going to be, at a height and reach disadvantage here. He's got pretty good speed, pretty good takedown defense, and I really do respect Munoz. He's a good fighter, but let me say, like he's been fighting guys that are like older in their careers, and when he did fight one of these young guys in Sean O'Malley, it really wasn't going his way. So keep that in mind, when you're thinking about this fight. He's going to be taking on Chris Gutierrez. He is 31 years old, 5'9" with a 67-inch reach. He is 9-3-2 and 7-1 in the UFC. His one loss was to Ronnie Barcelos, and that was on the Ultimate Fighter show, I believe. Chris is really good. I've been riding with him. In his last 5 fights, had money on him every time. They're giving him good fights. They're really trying to build this guy up, and he's looked amazing. Knocking out Frankie Edgar. His last time out, super explosive. He had that spinning back fist win over Bagdaril Danan. That's a tough guy too. He's got a lot of power. So, he's got some of the hardest leg kicks in the game right now, and I think those are going to serve him well in this spot. He's got good boxing. He fights very smart. He doesn't take a lot of damage. He's on a 7-fight win streak right now, so that's crazy that he really hasn't been in talks for a title shot. How many other people are on a 7-fight win streak right now in the division other than Arnold Allen with a 10-fight win streak? But so I'm gonna be taking Gutierrez, and he could win by finish, but Munoz is pretty durable, and I'm gonna take Chris to win by decision. Next up, we got Dustin Jacoby taking on Azamat Murzakanov. Dustin Jacoby is 35 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach. He is 18-6-1 and 3-6-1 in the UFC. He was on a 6-fight win streak when he got robbed against Khalil Roundtree his last time out. And if you look at the stats, he clearly won that fight. It wasn't even close. He outlanded him, basically on all levels. I'm a big Dustin Jacoby fan. I've had money on him in most of his fights this run in the UFC. He's an amazing kickboxer. His takedown defense is much improved. He's a big guy with a long reach. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage here. And his kicks are really good. They serve him very well. He uses them a lot, and he's got really good leg kicks. He keeps guys at bay with them, and he's got good power, even though he hasn't had a ton of knockouts, in the UFC. But he also puts out a lot of volume, and he's got good footwork as well. He can take a punch. He's been there with some pretty heavy hitters. Khalil Roundtree's a very heavy hitter, and he's taken on Azamat Murzakanov. He is 34 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, and he is 12-0 and 2-0 in the UFC. He's an exciting fighter. He must be good. Obviously, he's undefeated. Got a lot of finishes on his record. Uh, but honestly, he hasn't fought anybody with even close to as good a striking as Jacoby. And the Azamat has 2 finishes in the UFC, but he honestly was getting beat by those guys in those fights before he came back and got the wins. Was it Dolce? Oh no, it was Tafon Nchukwe that was beating on him, and I thought for sure Azamat was going to lose that fight, and he came back and got the win. So good for him. But those guys are nowhere near as good as Dustin Jacoby, and Azamat is always live for a finish. Keep that in mind. But I think he belongs at middleweight. He's a pretty small light heavyweight. And, he does have the power and the explosiveness, but I've got to go with Dustin Jacoby here to get the win, and he'll probably win by decision with the superior volume. He'll outland this guy and beat him up with the kicks and everything from the outside. So I'm going to be taking Dustin and Jacoby once again. Next up, we got Edson Barboza taking on Billy Quarantillo. Edson Barboza is 37 years old, 5'11", with a 75-inch reach. He is 22-11 and 16-11 in the UFC. So Edson is a legend. He's an amazing striker. He has some amazing highlight reel, knockouts on his record. He's pretty late in his career. He slowed down a bit, which sucks because I'm a big fan of his, and the way to win against him is to get the takedowns. It's been done. Some people can do it, some can't. Barboza will have the striking advantage here. He almost always will have the striking advantage for most of the people that he takes on. And I'm not convinced that Billy will be able to get the takedowns here. Barboza's record looks the way it does because he's fought the best of the best of competition in the UFC, and the competition levels that these guys have fought is not even close. And Barboza's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here, and I think that could serve him pretty well. And he's going to be taking on Billy Quarantillo. He is 34 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach. He is 17-4 and 5-2 in the UFC. So Billy is tough. He's got great cardio, which is what saved him in his last fight. He got destroyed in the beginning of the Hernandez fight, and of course Hernandez gassed out and took over, and Billy took over and put a beating on him. Billy can push a really tough pace. He's well rounded, but I don't think he's as good as Bryce Mitchell with the takedowns. So I don't think the takedowns are going to really be there for Billy. And Billy lost to Gavin Tucker not that long ago, so I'll be shocked if he beats Barboza. But anything can happen in this sport, and Barboza's late in his career. But I'm going to be picking Barboza to win by decision. And if he doesn't win, this one, I'll finally give up on him. But I think he can get the win here. And now we're on the main event. Max Holloway taking on Arnold Allen. Max Holloway is 31 years old, 5'11", with a 69-inch reach. He's 23-7 and 19-7 in the UFC. And I'm a big Max Holloway fan. I already told y'all a few weeks ago that I did take a play on Arnold Allen. I think I got him at like plus 140, and I think he's like at a plus 130 right now. I'm a big fan of both of these guys, but Max has been around a long time. He's a very good striker, very good boxer. He puts out tons of volume, lots of kicks. He's really good, man. He's got pretty good takedown defense. He's very well rounded. He's one of the best in the division, and there's not many people that I would pick over him. I thought I picked Holloway in the last Volkanovski fight, I went back and studying the tape on this fight, and the last fight with Volkanovski, Max looked like a shell of himself in that fight, and if you go back and watch the Yair Rodriguez fight before that, I know he got the win, but that was a really close fight, and I actually thought that Yair could have won that fight, and he took a lot of damage in that fight. So, take that with a grain of salt, But for me, it kind of looked like, maybe he's starting to slow down a little bit, but I could be wrong. And I'm a big Max fan, so I hope nobody's too hard on me about about this. But he's taking on Arnold Allen, and Arnold is 29 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach. He is 19-1 and 10-0 in the UFC. And it could be said that some of his fights early on in his career, in the UFC were pretty boring. If we go back and look at them all here, his first win was a good one, a round 3 guillotine choke. Then he's got several, unanimous and decision victories. He's got a finish over Mads Bernal, front choke, round 3. So he's got 2 submission victories in UFC. Then he's got unanimous decision wins where he just kind of played it safe throughout, like a 4 fights in a row there. Played it safe and kind of picked at these guys. Didn't throw out a ton of volume. But then in his last 2 fights, well, can't say much about the Calvin Kattar fight. He was winning that fight before the knee injury, but I won't say too much there. But the Dan Hooker fight, where he went out there and just went balls to the wall and just fucking destroyed Dan Hooker. I mean, he really showed how much power he has and how good he is, and I think that I mean, he's undefeated in the UFC, man. And I think it's his time. I think he can get this win. I think he deserves to fight for a title. Um, I know Yair and Volkanovski are going to be fighting for the title soon. I think Arnold Allen deserves it, man, and he's been around for quite a while now, and he just hasn't been getting the respect he deserves. And I guess he really didn't start getting it until the Dan Hooker fight. But I've been on the hype train with him for a while. I thought he was really good, really talented. Been very impressed with him. Doesn't take a ton of damage in his fights, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, man. I won't be mad either way. I guess I will be kind of mad if Max wins because I got money on Allen, but I want Max to win. I want Allen to win. This is kind of a tough fight for me. I'm a big fan of both of them, so I do have a play on Arnold Allen, but uh, that's all my picks, guys. And as far as my bets go for this card, told you I got to play on Allen plus 140. I got to play on uh, Daniel Zellhuber. That's a 1 unit play on him at minus 130. Got a 2 unit play on Chris Gutierrez at minus 200. I got a 1 unit play on Dustin Jacoby minus 173, and I got a play on Matheus Nicolau at minus 165, and that's just a 1 unit play. And I'm debating on a play. I might end up having a play on Boser, but I might wait to live bet that one. And because it's a pick 'em right now, I think if Cutelaba comes out and has a good first few minutes of the fight, the odds will sway towards him, and then we'll be able to jump on Boser at good plus money. And I'm actually considering a play on Gillian Robertson. If she winds up being an even bigger underdog, I might throw a play on her as well. And so that's it, man. I appreciate all you guys, and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and let's take a look at the 287 card and see if there's any updates that I need to talk about on here real quick before I get done with this. We've gone over all those. I told y'all about the Ignacio Bahamondes to take it on Trey Ogden now. I'm taking Bahamondes. Got to play on him. And I guess they haven't found a replacement for the Leech yet, unfortunately. And I guess we lost the Barnett versus Chase Sherman fight. I was kind of looking forward to that. I wonder if they'll find Chase another opponent. But yeah, so I guess I don't got anything else, guys, man. I appreciate y'all. And please like, please subscribe. Please keep watching. Tell your friends. Got free bets. I don't charge nobody for my bets. And when I have a good night, we all have a good night. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you.